Welcome on this sunshiny day after Earth Day here at the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock. I'm the Reverend Natalie Fenimore. I serve this congregation as minister, as does the Reverend Jennifer Brower and the Reverend Ned White. Ned, over here? And our ministerial intern, Oscar Sinclair, soon to be a minister somewhere else. Yes, our thoughts and well wishes are with Oscar during this season of ministerial search. He handled the anxiety very well. For those of you who are new to our congregation, welcome. Please take a moment after the service to go over your order of service, which contains information about our many events and activities. Find something here which speaks to your heart, your spirit, your mind, and jump right in. Get to know us better and let us get to know you better. I'd like to also invite you to lunch in the UU Cafe after the service, which we have every Sunday. For those of you who are visitors, new to us, please stop by the welcome desk out in the lobby to get a card offering you a free lunch with us today. I'd also like to lift up a few things that are in your order of service, a few announcements. First, I'd like you to know that on April 28th and 29th, we will be having here a play, an original play by our own Wally Brown, Margaret's War. It's the story of a Holocaust rescue drama. It features real people. Margaret Pohick, who was a member of this congregation. It speaks about the ways in which our Unitarian Universalist faith has been faithful to the work of justice and compassion and love in the world, and how our people are capable of doing great deeds. Also, we will have a UUA Leader Forum here on April 30th at 1:15 here in the worship room, where we'll welcome the UUA moderator, one of our current co-presidents, the former president of the UUA, William Sinkford, and Mary Catherine Moore, Director of Stewardship and Development and Special Advisor to the President. Please come here and be ready for conversation about the current state of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Also on April 30th, we will have a gallery opening, and on May 6th, we will have a fabulous Fanny presentation, celebrate the music of Fanny Mendelssohn, which is sponsored by the women's group. It is their gala concert. Information about these and our other activities are found in your order of service. And now, as is our custom, I invite you to greet your neighbor.
As we come back to our seats and listen to our prelude, will the ushers please process the flowers in for the morning?
Our opening words from Mary Oliver, Why I Wake Early. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who made the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories and into the windows of even the miserable and the crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star, that just happens to be where you are in the universe to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness and kindness. Please stand in body or spirit as you are able to sing hymn number 368, Now Let Us Sing. Sing to the power of the faith.
If you will join me in our words of affirmation printed in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need. This do we affirm and covenant with each other. Be seated. Each week we gather together to share of our gifts, our time, our community with each other. And each week we take up an offering for the support of the programs of this congregation from which we all benefit so much. This is a special place. And so we come together to offer of ourselves. Will the ushers please come forward? The offering will be gratefully received. Now will you please rise as you are comfortable and join in singing our next hymn, number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning. Please be seated. At this time in our service, we invite you into a spirit of meditation and invite you to come forward as you are able to light candles of joy and sorrow, memory and hope, the spring of spirit and renewal. Welcome to this time.
Let us rest a while in the light of our candles of joy and sorrow, memory and hope. We hold in our thoughts our member Corinne Hayden, whose brother is experiencing health concerns. We wish her family well. We hold in our hearts all of those who are experiencing suffering and pain in our community. May they know that they are held in our embrace. And also we celebrate. There are joys in this room. There is, if nothing else, the joy of being together at this moment on this beautiful day. For this we are grateful. And by all that is holy, we choose today to honor the earth on this day after Earth Day. We pray for clean water and fresh air, for unpolluted land. For the body of this earth is our home, our only human home. May we bless each other by caring for this, our earth. So may it be. Amen. So glad it stopped raining. I know we need the rain, but I waited a long time for the spring. It seemed to come so late. I want to suck every little bit out of it. Let me tell you a story. One summer, I traveled with a group of about 30 adults and teens to visit a UU partner church in the village of Sangarița in Romania, in Transylvania. I hope that some of you will have an opportunity to visit our partner church. Before the trip, our group spent some time learning some basic Hungarian. I don't remember a bit. And some history of the Unitarian Church in Romania and Hungary, which I do remember. And for the trip, we flew across the Atlantic, running through de Gaulle Airport in Paris. We then took a flight to Budapest, Hungary, and from Hungary, we drove a full day up into the Romanian hills, past the highway onto dirt roads, to arrive in a village in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night. On arrival, we were divided up and handed to our host families. I was anxious and disoriented as I headed off into the dark to a strange place with strangers who thankfully spoke a little English. My hosts offered me tea and settled me into a bedroom. And finally, left alone, more tired than anxious, I drifted off to sleep. And in the morning, the crowing roosters woke me up. I could see from my surroundings and know with certainty that this was a journey through both time and space. The village sits in a beautiful green valley surrounded by farmers' fields that climb halfway up the hill. At night, it is so dark that you can barely see to walk in front of you down the street. And the stars are so close that you can reach up and hold them in your hand. I remembered all the Greek star stories and the story of the Magi. There are no buildings in the village over 2 stories. The houses are largely hand-built and built over generations and containing housing generations. These are colorful houses with barnyards and courtyards and dirt roads, cars sharing the roads with horse carts and cows. You can watch the cows come home. There are growing things everywhere. Trees of fruits and vegetable gardens and flowers of every kind in bloom. Corn and wheat and hay, chickens, horses, pigs, and cows and barking dogs everywhere. An Eden of sorts, with the pace of country life tied to the sun. The village no longer has many young people. They move away to go to high school, and once they live in the city, few come back to farm in the village, only to visit in the summer. The older people were farmers. They owned their houses, but they were poor. Still, there were cars and computers and televisions. You could see the farmers working in the field by hand next to satellite dishes. People might move from the computer to walk through the chicken yard to go to the outhouse. There was no fast food, no movie theaters, no shopping malls. The village was a universe. There were 2 churches in the village, one Reformed and one Unitarian. The Unitarian Church is hundreds of years old, a traditional Protestant church building, steepled and whitewashed. It sits on a high hill in the village and is surrounded by a cemetery that is regularly attended by the old people of the village. In the village, the church is an important touchstone of identity. The Unitarians are Hungarians stuck by politics inside what is now Romania, and they feel abused. My host and hostess had a lovely home with indoor plumbing and good food. I was lucky. Emma and Lotzi were a welcoming couple. She a teacher, and he an engineer in a local greenhouse. They had been married 13 years. their only child miscarried. Emma and I sat crying in her kitchen as we used hand gestures and dictionaries to try to talk about her pain. Emma's love found a way past grief to motherhood. She and Lotsie became the unofficial godparents of 2 neighborhood girls, 2 Roma girls, 2 gypsy girls. The girls came to collect eggs and help clean up and were given money and food. They got homework help and learned English. There was love and laughter and dancing and joking and scolding, a good family for the girls at Emma and Lotsie's house. But the girls' biological father had left their mother alone with 5 children to raise. And while the girls were welcomed, always welcomed at Emma and Lotsie's, they were barely tolerated elsewhere in the village. You see, even there, in this small place that could be Eden, people divided themselves. Hungarian Unitarian, Romanian Reformed, one Catholic, and the Roma, the gypsy outcast by all. The youngest of the 2 girls, Susanna, was 9 at the time. She was a wonder. So smart, so lively, so quick with languages, but she was destined to be married off at age 14, as was the Roma custom. Even Emma and Lotsie's love would probably not prevent this. One afternoon, while we sat in the courtyard having lunch with Susanna, an old Romanian woman came storming in. This old woman was sturdy and bent over from decades of hard work. She was screaming, she was raging, and she headed straight toward Susanna. Lotsie moved quickly to get in front of this old woman, but she sidestepped him and she rushed toward Susanna. Shouting, she slapped Susanna hard, full across the face, hard across the face, while we all stood there, struck ourselves into stillness and not breathing. Then Lotsie moved in front of the child, and the old woman fell into his arms. She cried in rage and sorrow. The old woman told Lotsie that Susanna had pushed her. The child had just come up behind her in the street and pushed her hard for no reason. I believed right away that the girl had pushed her. This girl, who was outcast and powerless and futureless, had found the one person she could push. The one person in all the world that she could force to see her power and acknowledge her person. And she pushed her. So the little girl stood there now, being slapped, perhaps knowing all along that her actions would lead to this moment, expecting it. The little girl did not move. She did not flinch. She did not cry. Maybe she was used to being hit. Maybe she didn't want to let anyone have the satisfaction of her tears. She stood there, witness and victim of the suffering caused by the bigotry that surrounded her life, and as a testimony to its reality. And the old woman, bent from labor, her struggles through communist dictatorship forgotten, her survival uncelebrated, she watches the young people turn to television and cars and cell phones. They leave the village, they leave her. Always, she is pushed. She is pushed aside. Who else and what else does she strike at when she hits the little girl? The shaking old woman, the stone-still child, had all the world's great tragedies and genocides, our wars grown as weeds from seeds sown in moments like this. Was I seeing Rwanda and Gaza and Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and our own stories of racial injustice here in America reflected in this one moment? The shaking old woman and the stone-still child, victim and victimizer in turn, each hurt and hurting, looking at each other across a void of history and choices, mostly beyond our making and beyond our understanding. Could they reconcile? Can we reconcile? For to reconcile is to listen and understand each other's stories. To reconcile is to make peace with the past without forgetting it, to move into renewed relationship, to gain and grow from our knowledge of one another. This reconciliation is a long, hard process that might be the work of a lifetime, of generations, but it's a needed healing and should become our common human goal. And so I stood there in a courtyard, in a garden, in a beautiful village, and almost Eden, now far away, with a shaking old woman and a stone-still child, and I have been and will be each making their choices. But I also saw in that moment another way. We can choose to be like Lotzi, standing between them with love, offering love to bridge the space between them, showing the way to reconciliation. This love of Lotzi and Emma, this holy love, was what I was there to witness and to learn from and to carry away with me. I was asked to shed all the choices I might make that did not include the possibility of a loving outcome. I was to move closer to the possibility of love, a powerful, compassionate, engaged, and challenging love, a love that nourishes a seed. I believe that if we can stay in place and maintain relationship in such a way as to make love and caring and compassion and inclusion our norm, if we can hold on to each other in our times of pain, if we can embody loving care or support someone else who can embody a reconciling loving care, like Emma and Lotzi, then we will have moved closer to saving the world. I tell you this story today on Earth Day because we people are not separate from the whole of creation, but are a part of it, intertwined with it. Our hatreds for each other have led us to devastate the planet on which we all live, which is needed for our common survival. I'll tell this story today because the creator of the Flower Communion, which we will celebrate, the Reverend Norbert Capek, created this ritual so that Unitarians might set aside their differences and see themselves as we all see flowers. We see the flowers of the earth as marvelous and sacred in all of their beautiful diversity. He wanted us to embrace one another with this same sacredness, to embrace one another in love. So may it be. Amen.
I have two orders of service that are slightly different right now. But we come now to the time to celebrate Flower Communion. Norbert Capek's ritual that reminds us that each are unique, each are beautiful. We come together to give. In these communities, we come to receive. So as we sing hymns together, as you are moved to, I invite you to come up and select a flower, different from the one you brought, if you brought flowers this morning, but one that particularly appeals to you. First, we're going to consecrate the flowers. And then as we sing, I'll invite you to pick one flower that speaks specifically to you. So, the words for the consecration are in your order of service. I will speak the italic parts, and you will respond with the parts in bold. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these messengers of friendship and love. May they remind us amid the diversities of knowledge and gifts to be one desire and affection and worship. May they also remind us of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of the most precious gifts. May we realize that whatever we do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed. May we be strengthened by the knowledge that one Spirit, the Spirit of love, unites us. May we endeavor together for a more joyful life for all. These flowers now being consecrated, we will sing together the hymns listed in your order of service. And as we do so, I invite you to come up and choose a flower, one that speaks to you. We'll start with hymn number 1051 in the Teal hymnal, We Are. Our next hymn is number 1053, How Could Anyone? The words are being projected behind me. Our last hymn is number 1064, Blue Boat Home.
For these closing words from Thich Nhat Hanh. Water flows from high in the mountains. Water runs deep in the earth. Miraculously, water comes to us and sustains all life. Water and sun green these plants. When the rain of compassion falls over a desert, it becomes an immense green ocean. So may it be. Amen.